Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to pick up where we left off at part one. In part one, we replaced the relay and a few parts and got the golf cart in an operational situation. Now we're ready to move ahead and rebuild the transaxle. I've looked around YouTube and I don't see any other videos that are quite as detailed as this video is going to be. If you are going to rebuild your transaxle on your golf cart, this is something you want to see. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is jack this thing up, put it on jack stands, disconnect the batteries, take the motor transaxle unit off, and we'll carry you through the full process of doing that, take the wheels off, and then we're gonna set it up onto the workbench and see if we can figure out our bearing situation in the transaxle. We gave each bolt a good shot of penetrating oil, and then we went ahead and started the process of removing the shocks. Once the shocks were removed, we went right into the process of removing the axles from the springs. There's two bolts or two nuts that attach to a U-bolt that hold the axle down. And I had to readjust the jack stands to get a little bit higher just because of my older cumbersome electric impact. All of my good impacts are over at the farm and I just had that, so that's what I used. Sure beat a ratchet. This last little bit, I'm removing the hairpin from the brake cable. That way I can drop that whole assembly out of the way. Now I just repeated the same thing on the other side. Just be aware, this is a time you really need to start thinking about removing the electrical cables from the motor. If this thing was to fall and yank, it would do some damage to the controller at the top if it pulled on those cables. So as you see here in just a few minutes, I made some adjustments. All right, I got all of the bolts loose from the axle. So I got the shock loose first, then I got the two bolt or nuts from the U-bolt loose. Got them on both sides. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and remove these shackles for the leaf springs. I wanna do is spray these down with some penetrating oil. I've been using the liquid wrench penetrating oil and it seems to be doing a pretty good job. I hear horror stories about the bolt actually getting seized inside. So there's a metal sleeve in there. Let's hope that's not the case, but I'm gonna go ahead and put some oil. Hopefully it'll leak down on that, in that metal a little bit. So this bolt come right out of the sleeve. This one, the sleeve has stayed. Yeah, this one right here, the sleeve has stayed in it. And you can see that it's trying to push the shackles apart. What I'm gonna have to do is go ahead and come in here and cut the head of the bolt off. At this point, I thought it'd be better to go ahead and remove all the wires from the motor just in case when we did drop this down that it wouldn't pull on the wires and tear something up. Removing all the tight wires was a good call because right there, that saved me from tearing wires loose. Oh, that could have went better, but it's gonna go down. Well, at least it landed it on the jack so I can roll it out. All right, let's see what we got here. There's our information for the engine or the motor. But the motor is clunky or the transaxle is clunky, but we're gonna break into this thing, clean it up. So tomorrow we'll take this up to the car wash, wash it, and I'll get back with you. All right, a quick trip to the car wash, and this is what it looks like now.
can really see the data plate. And then I look around it, I don't see any damage whatsoever. It's, you know, it's got some scuff marks where it's been hit on stuff. Here is the tag for the axle when it was built. Yeah, I don't see anything. I'm pretty excited. So I changed out the oil in this about 2 months ago, right after I first got it, trying to, you know, quieten it down. So the oil shouldn't be too bad, and as you can see here, it wasn't. It was pretty good. So there are 3 smaller boats on the front and 1 larger boat on the back side up under, and it's easy to miss the one on the back side, so pay attention to that. I'm guessing this transaxle probably weighs about 115 pounds, and the electric motor probably is a good 40 or 45 pounds. It's heavy, but it's still manageable. So what we're doing here is going ahead and taking the axles off completely. These axles have spline shafts that just slide right into the differential. And the reason that we're not doing it the other way by pulling the axles out the end is because when we first got this, we put new brakes and new bearings and seals in the axles. I mean, I could show you that, but there's all the videos in the world for that. However, there's not a lot of videos on showing how to rebuild the transaxle. As a matter of fact, I can't find any. I am sure that these shafts have been on this transaxle since its inception. So don't give up. You just got to keep popping at it and, you know, holding the axle up off the ground so you're getting a little away pressure as you hit it. But if you keep pecking at it, it will go ahead and break loose. That seal will finally give way. Next, we remove the transaxle housing bolts. Each one of these bolts are the exact same size and length. Okay, they're all the same. That reader off. We'll clean that out real good. It works. Got a pin. And then the gasket goes down. At this point, I got very hopeful. There was no metal shards and the transaxle looked clean. So this is a really good time to inspect your housing, all of your gears, all of your bearings, and really pay close attention to the housing. And the reason I say this is because, you know, this golf cart is 30 years old, and if you're rebuilding yours, it's probably that old as well. It's probably taken a couple hits on the transaxle, like running over things. That's the seal we need to replace. Seal right here. I gotta order that seal. The bearings feel great. I don't see anything wrong. It turns out that every bearing in my transaxle was in good shape. Where my noise was coming from was from the motor. And if you want to know how to replace or pull one of these bearings, the same principle will apply on the motor bearing. So I will put a little small clip at the end of this video showing you how to remove that bearing or one of these type bearings. You need a special type bearing remover. Almost all of your auto parts store like AutoZone or O'Reilly's will rent those to you, and very low cost.
It looks like that goes out the other side, but I want to. Yeah, that does. Since we got it off, I'm going to take it out this direction. That seal's bad. Well, really didn't have to. I could have just pulled the motor off, put like 2 screws in each side of this, and use the yank, like a yank cable to yank this out. But since we've got it out, we'll go ahead and get a number off of it and order a new seal. Probably the golf shop down the street probably got it. So these bearings have no play. We're going to put this back in.
So I took the time to put the gears back into the housing and rotate them through, just feeling for any kind of imperfections, because this is you're not going to do this every day. This is the time to do really in-depth inspections. Once I felt comfortable with all the bearings and the gears were in good shape, then I took the gears back out, brought the housings out, and what I'm doing here is I'm cleaning the interior of the housings out really good. And it's not just so that they're clean, but it's also so that you can inspect them. You want to look for any kind of cracks or imperfections. This is the time to look for this, because you can still get these housings if you need it. I'm not going to get into a big argument about which oil you should put in your transaxle. Obviously, you can put what the manual says. I've got a lot of experience with oils, and I use a hydraulic fluid that goes in the back of tractors and pretty much anything like this with mesh gears. I will admit it's overkill, but it's what I do, and I keep it on hand. I promised you that I would show you how to remove the bearings off of the gears, and it's the same way as you do it with this motor. You use this bearing removing tool, and then you just hook up the bolts and the puller, use an impact wrench, just hammer down, it'll pull it right off. And again, you can rent this at your local store. Hey, you guys stay tuned for our next video, and I'll walk you through how I rebuilt this Car DS motor from top to bottom. Here you go.